We are doing our family budgeting, our planning for 2023, and it's a very important exercise that we do every year. I feel like doing these exercises at the start of the year is what will help you be successful.
If I wrote you a song, if I got every word perfectly weighted on a thin piece of paper, would it make any difference? Would it change for the better? If I wrote you a poem, if I posted a letter?
Hello everyone, Happy New Year. It is January 1st, 2023. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that we are starting a new year. This is a new vlog, a day in the life, and I'm here with my special other half. We're actually on the floor while Xavier is watching cartoons because we are doing our family budgeting, our planning for 2023, and it's a very important exercise that we do every year. And I feel like doing these exercises at the start of the year is what will help you be successful. At least it has worked for us, right? And we do have an accounting firm, as you guys know, and these principles that I'm going to let Ronnie share with you are principles that we also share with our clients. Strategic planning is fundamental for everybody, for personal finances, for business finances. We have big things coming in 2023. Baby, we have our renovations for the house. We have lots of things, lots of goals that we want to materialize. And if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? So
it may sound fundamentally cliche to be starting out at the beginning of the year doing New Year's resolution or planning, but I like what you said. And since you got us pregnant again,
oh, wow.
it's even more important for us to sit down and talk about what we're going to be doing for 2023. I mean, some of the big things that you normally start out with is considering what resources you have available to you. And in some instances, or in our case, we have time as a resource. We have income producing assets potentially, and we both work. You as an entrepreneur and me within a full-time career at the moment. So one of the things that we want to look at is what's coming in terms of the resources that are going to be available to us during the year, and what's going out. Where is all that money and time and other resource going, and potentially how we can use those better or more efficiently. What does better look like? What does more efficiently look like? What does success generally look like? And for those people that know me, they will know that one of my favorite things to say is that you can't manage what you don't measure. So fully understanding what you have and how you are utilizing it from a conscious perspective, as opposed to just going through the motions day to day and seeing where you get to at the end, is something that is really fundamentally important.
Personally, for us, what are the goals? What is it that we want to achieve by the end of the year? For me, it is time with my babies. They're not going to be kids forever. Xavier loves all my attention now. I'm pretty sure when he's 10, Mama, get out of my face, right? So time right now is essential, and how I manage that time also, because like he said, we do have a business. I have to make sure that all of my clients get the right amount of attention. But I do want to make sure also that I have time at home with my kids, and I can social time with Ronnie as well. So that's fundamental to me. Making sure that we have a high amount of savings, because listen, emergencies can pop up at any time. We do live in the Caribbean. Hurricanes can come, anything can happen, health issues can happen. So you always want to make sure that you have that safety net in the bank, if you will. So that's also a priority, to continue growing our savings. And I think we want to reach to a year of savings now, because we've been growing our savings for a while. So I think the goal this year is like a whole year worth of savings.
I mean, the recommendation from a lot of people is that you should try to have 6 months of emergency funds on hand. And that is good because, as Lyd pointed out, there are many things that can happen that come up unexpectedly, and you want to be able to respond to those things, and you don't want to have to spend your time worrying about what would happen if the car broke down, or what would happen if I lost my job tomorrow and income stopped coming in. But at the same time, we are having a period of high inflation, so a lot of money simply sitting in the bank is actually costing you money, because a year's salary, for instance, sitting in the bank today, a year from now will not be a year's salary, because the buying power of that same amount of money will be significantly less. So one of the things that we're talking about is how we can leverage the money that we have and put it into income producing assets, so that we can build on our passive income and enable ourselves to have some of that additional time with family, and being able to make our money work for us, basically, instead of consistently working for our money. Ideas, come to you when you start to really look at where it's going. And we were talking about previously how something as simply as trying to find lunch these days for $10 is challenging. But let's go with $10 for now. And if you're working, say, 4 weeks per month, 5 working days each, that's $10 for each lunch. You're looking at about $200 a month on just lunch. You haven't even bought the drinks yet, just lunch. And over a year, that's $2,400. So when you're doing your budgeting and you can look past small items, like the things that you spend for lunch, when you look at it on an annual basis, you realize that it's actually a significant expense. Things like, we just got through our Christmas period, there was a lot of Christmas shopping. So we don't tend to think about gift giving as part of our annual budgeting process, but eventually it becomes an expense because you haven't planned for it. It becomes an unplanned expense, and something that throws a lot of families, their budgets out of whack at the end of the year, because all of a sudden you thought you were doing so well, you got to December, and now the money go away, and you're starting January going, how am I going to do better this year?
In that same vein, I'll say like social activities, like you have to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
Because, I know the girls would like to go for brunch on a Sunday, but now that's an easy $75, at least here in the Cayman Islands, it's an easy $75 to $100. Your makeup collection needs to be topped up. That's me.
Vacation.
You want vacation, if we're going to be able to have one, because the baby, but you need to plan those things as well, and be realistic and be honest with yourself. Because if you're just going to skirt through your thoughts and just say, I'm not going to go anywhere for the first quarter of the year. Come on, is that really what you want to do? Or do you just want to say, well, I can't go out every weekend, I can't go to every fete, but maybe one fete a month, that's going to cost me about $50. I can do that, I'm going to budget for that. So those little things I think are essential as well.
They're essential, and you'll be amazed at how the quality of life improves when you're not nervously spending, when you're not just mindlessly going through the paycheck until the bank gets to zero every month and then worrying about what comes next. So really sitting down, putting it on paper, put your annual car insurance, put your annual licensing fee, look at your telephone expense, your utilities, mortgage or housing costs if you're paying rent. All of these things, put them all down, put them over the full year in comparison to your income, and the results may surprise you. You may find out that the reason why you've not been able to pay off your credit cards is because every year you're running a deficit, and you're not really bringing in as much as you're putting out. And looking at it on paper, it's a lot easier to adjust it on paper than trying to adjust it in October after 10 months have gone out and you only got 2 months left, and then you're scrambling. So I think that's one of the things that we should start off doing initially, which we've got good track records. I mean, once you've lived for a while, something as simple as downloading your debit card statements over the last year gives you a reality check as to where the money went, and will clue you in on recurrent expenditures that you have, whether that's cable bill or internet or otherwise, that if you're trying to sit down and go for it from memory, you may miss some of these things, and therefore your budget becomes incomplete. So starting off with the expenditure side is a good way to do it, and seeing what it really takes for you to live. And I know it's going to be different strokes for different folks depending on the jurisdiction in which you live. Cost of living can be significantly high here in the Cayman Islands.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, housing costs is usually the banks will say to you that you shouldn't spend more than a third of your income on housing costs, and that's usually a good indicator. But for a lot of people, it's 50% or more of their income going toward housing. So that is usually going to be one of the areas where a lot of people start out by saying, if I'm making X per year, Y goes to mortgage or rent, and that's a big significant dent in your income.
Another thing I want to talk about, you itemize your expenditure that you know. Also think about your wastage, because for me, that's some don't even say it, but that's a place where I struggle. And wastage can come in many forms. You're buying clothes that you don't need, toys that the kid's not gonna play with, food that spoils in the fridge. I feel like that is the worst part for me, because groceries around here is not cheap, especially when you're getting vegan food or organic fruits and vegetables. Sad but true. If I was getting sausage every day, I'd be further ahead, than buying organic tofu or, those kinds of things. So me taking the time to look in my pantry, look in my fridge and say, okay, what meal planning, because I'm not going to be spending $10 every day on the road to buy food. I like to cook as much as possible around here and save, but I'm not really doing myself justice by dumping things that are spoiling simply because I bought too much or I didn't plan ahead what the family was going to eat. So if I know that there's corn in the fridge, what can I make around the corn so that I don't have to go back to the supermarket and get something else? It's a simple example, but it's one that I feel like if I took more initiative to meal plan what I'm sending Xavier to school for daycare, what he's gonna what he's gonna carry for snack, and what I'm gonna carry for lunch, and what we're gonna eat for dinner, I would probably save a good $5,000 over the year.
Confession is good for the soul.
Because we do end up dumping a lot of, fruits and vegetables don't last forever, so I do end up dumping a lot. So wastage in the sense of food or clothes or, any other entertainment gadgets, really think about what you're buying, because every penny counts, and it might just seem like $5 today for coffee, but that Starbucks is going to get you. Starbucks is getting richer at your expense, and it's not worth it.
And that's where things like economies of scale come into focus. Rather than buying incremental, individualized items, we've upgraded to a new house this year. There's tons of storage. So buying in bulk is what a lot of families find to be very useful. I read recently where somebody was talking about how do you know when you have enough to be able to retire, and the recommendation at that time was having 8 times your annual income in the bank. Well, we don't have that yet. So we have to try to set goals in understanding how potentially we can get to that goal, whereby we're not working into our 70s and living to work as opposed to working to live. Yeah.
Really.
Working to live so that, life can be enjoyed, without having goals in life. You said that life without goals is like an unsharpened pencil. What's the point? We need to have things that we're aspiring towards, growing towards, and it gives you a fundamental sense of fulfillment when you know that you've sat down, you've set something, you've worked toward it, and you've accomplished it. And that's kind of how you go about it. What many people recommend is don't go for the Hail Mary, don't go for the big overall, okay, I'm going to be retiring in 2 years. You can look at that as an ultimate outcome or an ultimate goal, but you do need to work backward, break that down into smaller, achievable, manageable goals. And what that's going to allow you to do also is to continue to feel motivated and inspired, because you can see how you are making those gains. You can see how you're taking steps along your journey.
Baby steps, y'all. It's all about baby steps.
Yep. So that budget shouldn't, while we look at it on an annual basis, what you do is break it down back into its monthly components and you set your monthly goal. So for instance, if you want to retain 15% of your income at the end of each month towards your savings, or it might be 10% or whatever the goal may be, you can see that at the bottom of each month. So you know at the end of January, this is where I planned I would be, this is where I'm actually at. Am I doing well? Am I not doing so well? Do I need to make some adjustments? Did an unplanned expenditure come into being, and therefore do I need to cut back on maybe that vacation we planned this year, or the amount of things that we're going to be doing that are discretionary? That's the other important thing is once you've identified the items that your monies are typically being spent on, you want to separate those into have to spend, like to spend, love to spend. Because not everything is mandatory. You have to eat. We do consume utilities, electricity, water, those things. You do need to live somewhere. So you got to separate all of those things, and those are more or less non-discretional. But then there are other things that you do that are more in the discretional category, and you want to know where can I go to and make adjustments if I find myself in trouble later on. One of the things that we did with our first villa that we bought in West Bay was to invest a lot of sweat equity into it. So when we moved in, Lynn hated everything, which drove me nuts. But over the next several months, by upgrading the floors, changing out the closets, adding a third bedroom, actually it was a conversion of a space into a
my idea.
It's her idea. You'd be amazed what we paid for that in 2017. The neighbors are now selling for 2.5 times what we paid for ours.
And our condo is bomb. This is for myself.
That's because she's done our design.
Yes, exactly.
So, right away, that was income earned, wealth built, money that's locked into that now that we can potentially cash out towards our ultimate goal of building up a retirement saving to the area that we want it to be. I happen to love construction and woodworking and those things. So for me, putting around the house, completing the honey-do list is not very stressful. At the same time, it's forcing me to put money into an asset that's going to appreciate over time in terms of your home. Improving that is allow us to enjoy it as well. And then eventually, as we see now with the other property, is that it becomes really, really important to your overall goal.
And asset doesn't just have to be your property. You are your own asset, right? I mean, so I recommend, and I spoke about this in a previous video in terms of like reading, upgrading yourself, listening to podcasts, taking certificate courses. He's laughing because I haven't been doing as much reading, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, it's not because I don't want to, but come on, let's be honest. By the time I read Xavier's 5 books at nighttime, it's like I just want to get to bed. But it's your mind is your most important asset as far as I'm concerned, and you need to continually develop it. And maybe if you do have a passion, but you can't dive into that right away, so you have to stick with your 9 to 5. If you continue to become an expert in that goal, eventually it can be your full-time job. But you have to start somewhere. You have to educate yourself. I like vlogging, so I need to learn Final Cut Pro. Nobody taught me how to do that. I could pay editors to edit my video, which I did in the past, but I like seeing my work come to life. I like doing it myself. And believe it or not, working with Adobe helps me in other aspects of my business, because like the first part of the year, we get tons of requests to do annual reports. You want those reports to look beautifully well designed. This vlogging and learning how to create and design is helping me in other areas. So again, your asset, your mind, develop it, work on your craft, and you never know in the future. Not you never know, it will happen. Once you put your sweat equity into it, it can be your full-time job. And ultimately, that's what I want, is to be doing what I want to do and making money off of that. So. And
that's an excellent point, because when you invest in yourselves, I mean, one of the things that made our business successful is being able to leverage time. So what one business would pay for a full-time employee to complete a task, we have devised ways through learning and experience and development to be able to deliver the same service in a fraction of the time.
And cost.
And cost. So for the client, they pay a fraction of a full-time equivalent employee, and our employees can then serve 3 or 4 clients with the same amount of resource that one would ordinarily take. So investing in becoming more efficient, being more well-read, being able to complete tasks and jobs a lot more efficiently, overall pays more, because I mean, for us, it's being able to triple what normal income would be in our business by finding new ways through reading, through attending conferences, through doing online webinars, and other means of becoming more efficient.
Your industry is always changing, so you always have to stay on top of it.
Absolutely.
You know, so you can give your clients the best advice. You can enjoy that knowledge for your own purposes.
Yeah. Investing in yourself is something that's absolutely got to be there on your list. You have to see it just as important in investing in any other asset. And that's something that's going to be with you for the long term. You know, so I mean, the price that people pay for advice, as you talk about leveraging what you've learned into doing something that you thoroughly enjoy but also can produce income from you. I mean, those are things fundamental in a lot of people. They don't know that they want it, but that's what they're working toward. Being able to enjoy life, being able to do what you love, but at the same time, not sacrificing your overall family security and economic security as a result of it.
We're taking our own advice, and we are making our monthly budget, or we're making our yearly budget, itemizing it over the month, and with the focus of our ultimate goals. I mean, I said my goals, you didn't say what your goals were.
No, I mean, I do share your goals. I also want to try to find ways to spend more time at home, with a new one on the way. And Xavier getting to that stage now where he's excited, he runs around all the time. He just wants to play with me. I'm his biggest toy. So we run around the house yelling, and you know, that's to me is what life is about. It's about family, it's about enjoying and really spending time with one another. At the same time, you can't be reckless. You have to ensure that you do have that stability, that the family has economic security, and that you find that balance between providing but also being available.
Yes, that's key. Or at least that's key for us. I mean, I know you all are at different stages in your life. Maybe some of you don't have kids, or you know, you're single on the town. Enjoy. But here where we are, this is what we are prioritizing.
Yep.
And time is really big for us. Having the financial blanket is a big deal as well. Enjoying life, y'all. At the end of the day, that's all it's really boiling down to. It's trying to be healthy, live your best life, and just enjoy the people that are around you. So we're gonna finish up with our spreadsheet, and then I think you're gonna take us driving, and we're gonna go take Xavier to play a little bit before I come home and do some baking.
He's been keeping us up.
You guys.
His sleep pattern has shifted, where he's staying up until, like last night, he was up until almost midnight.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the
Unbelievable.
holidays got to him, and he's just like living his best life.
Exactly. So our strategy today is to take him outside and tire him out,
Yeah.
so that he either takes his nap at noon and then wake up back and go to bed at a reasonable time, or he's busy playing all day and don't up at all.
Yeah, and then he
go
goes
off
to sleep
bed
at 7 o'clock because this is too much.
And then we can finish this up.
Yeah. All right, so we'll see you later.
Take care.
Tell me you're the one for me now. 'Cause what am I supposed to do? If you are not the one for me, then tell me now what I could do. Tell me you're the one for me now. I pray that you believe it too. That you're the only one for me, and I'm the only one for you. If I wrote you a song, if I got every word perfectly weighted on a thin piece of paper,